Welcome to Keep IT Healthy podcast, a show hosted by people making things happen in technology, aiming to optimize healthcare delivery, health, well-being, and fitness. My name is Jan Kamiński and I'm the co-founder of AppLover, a company dedicated to improving the quality of life with IT solutions and digital advisory. We started making this podcast to amplify great thinking to propel healthcare forward. So our guest today is Swapan Chaudhuri, CEO and co-founder of Deeplai. Welcome in our podcast.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll start with a very simple one, an easy one, as a warm-up when it comes to questions. Can you tell us the backstory about what brought you to this career path in general?
To make long story short, after multiple years working for large multinationals, I decided to move to the entrepreneurship life and change the industry. So moved to IT and you moved to deep tech, willing to bring to the market innovations, inventions, which will help the society and customers, obviously, to achieve new goals, to work really closely on the digitalization of industries. And at one moment, we decided to move to the timber industry as forestry. We have understood that it is a huge industry. And just for anyone who is listening to us now, the total value of the forestry industry, which was estimated by Boston Consulting in 2020, is valued at 153 trillion US dollars. So it is more than oil, gas, and many other industries all together. So it's a good place to be as an industry. Secondly, it's linked closely to the climate, and we're really as human in a curve of the climate change. So it's a good place to bring new technologies, digitalization, and help the customers to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And I have a few follow-ups here. Like first, before we dig into the technology, what made you change your career path from a corporate, as you mentioned, right? And like, what was the driver to founding your own company?
I think the most important in life is change and willingness to achieve more and more. And that's my personality. So after really many years on a C-level in a corporate life, working in the Central Eastern Europe, I came to a decision that I would like to do something differently and use my experience. I call it take all good from the corporate life, leave the rest, and see how can be adopted in creating my own entrepreneurship.
What was the rest then? I mean, good, I get it. I get this part, but what was the rest from the corporate life?
To that would be a conversation for a separate podcast, I believe. But in general, not waste time on processes which don't bring any value.
Yeah, sure. I get that. And then you moved to entrepreneurship. But why? You mentioned the Boston Consulting Group report, but that was let's say, that was the reason why the wood industry, or
that was the reason why the wood industry. One of the large corporations where I was working was dealing with product identification, and we decided to bring a technology which would support the identification of natural products, which today it's really is difficult by using standard technologies, and at the same time we will learn that there are a lot of misappropriations happening in the timber industry worldwide. A lot of illegal activities are moving on, and the main obstacle is the timber identification. So we sat down and we said, okay, let's use our skills, which we have gathered in the IT world of image processing, to create a technology of timber fingerprinting, means recognizing a timber log via a computer vision, AI, ML technologies, identifying unique patterns, and that was our first step. And then we added to that a second level of technology, which is unique, the code. So we have created and developed our own code, which is a mix of symbols where we encrypt information. The information is giving you the exact geolocalization and timestamp. And once the code is applied at the forest, at the process where the timber is locked, you get very precise data for further identification. And now the combination of those two technologies are bringing us to close to 100% level of authentication proof. So that's the beginning of the curve. That are really the big data, the creation of the harvested timber, which can be then used for certification, for verification in the entire supply chain, and for further needs which are linked with carbon footprint monitoring, linked with the willingness to use the carbon credits to imply the behavior of companies on the market. So it's a good part of the required information which we want to bring to the market.
Okay, so you have a few products, a few technologies in the same company that are, in a sense, combined together, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and so how does your company assist your customers in making this digital transformation move and automating processes, etc.? Since, as probably generally considered, it's an industry that's not really tech savvy, right?
Yes. I would say the forestry and the timber industry is at the early stage of the digital transformation, whatever it means. I would put it more as a digitalization, and we know that human beings, in general, are not open for a change or slow to implement a change. So it is an interesting challenge where we're facing it on a daily basis, I would say, explaining how technology can really improve the processes in place and help really the customers to get the right management of the supply chain in the timber in industry. What is really important here is that just by coincidence, we're launching the technology at the same time when European Union has passed a deforestation regulatory, and the details of that regulation are basically a copy of the variable code mark which we use in our timber ID system, because it is obliging the supply chain for the parties to deliver a supply chain due diligence with proving the source and provenance of the timber with the exact geolocalization and timestamp. It's a nice curve of the industry transformation.
Okay, I just wanted to get into that. I mean, you started explaining somehow how does the one of the product works. So, like, how does the product fingerprint technology work, and what are the possibilities in general? You mentioned some of them, but if you can give us a general overview of the technology.
developing the technology, and especially when we're thinking and engineering the hardware which is required to apply the code, we're looking at the history of the forestry. So 100 years ago, or even longer, there were hammer markers which were being used for indenting a letter or a number on a timber log. So we decided to use equal technology, adding to it a possibility of generating a variable code at the forest and adjusting the code itself, where the indenting is being provided at the moment at the first level of the marker, which is a manual hammer marker. So basically, it's for foresters. It's bringing back to their memories what their grandfathers were explaining them how they were working. So we made really the adoption curve of the technology very easy, simple, and acceptable. So that's one part of the technology. You are a forester. You are working at the logging of the timber. At the forest, you're using the hardware to generate a variable code. You're adjusting the hammer marking system with a setup. You're indenting the code on the timber ring, and that's linked with the code itself. Then we're moving to the IT world. We have launched an app where you are image sourcing the timbering to the database, and here we are achieving in one goal two processes. First of all, the app itself is having built in AI and in the cloud AWS, where all as well are processing the image with multiple layers to create the fingerprint. And at the same time, we also have the code in the system. So we have the exact data which are encrypted in the code. So very simple, apply the code, image source to the database, and that's all what you need to do at the forest. The rest is on the platform, and then the management can use all the data for further processing.
Yeah, out of curiosity, your customers, your clients are rather private entities or public entities?
It's a mix of both, depending on a country. So at country level, it's really different. Some countries, as Poland, are more than 80% state-owned, and the rest are small private forest owners. Some countries, as Germany, Austria, France, are more or less half-half. And some countries in the world, the majority are private or forest owners. So it's a mix, but we're targeting both groups. Yeah. What is also interesting in the industry, that in case of a country, there's a good example is Sweden. There are multiple small private forest owners, and they are members of associations. So one of an association has over 26,000 private forest owners. So it's really depending on a country level specifics.
Let's say, I mean, your specific ways and your solution, and how does it impact the competitiveness and your customers from their financial standings? Is it just cheaper than the old ways or the usual ways, or what's the main goal here?
So when we make an assessment of the existing, technologies which are used, today, we can see that in majority, these are tags, are plastic tags. They're either pre-printed with a barcode or RFID tags. Some countries are using even aluminum, metallic tags, which also pre-printed. Some countries are using ink paint. They just spray a number and they do a lot of paperwork with the admin part of it. Some countries are printing QR codes on the foil and fixing them to the timbering. So all those technologies are using the consumables. Some consumable, the majority used consumables are very uneco-friendly. You can ask yourself a question: why, since many years, there was a decision to use plastic tags, so bring plastic to the forest, which is totally unecological. Yeah, but that is the technology which is used. So once we are applying the timber ID technology with the decode, we are indenting the code on the timbering phase. It means we're not using any consumables. We're not using any plastic, any ink, anything. It is a sequence of symbols which are encrypted. Mm-hmm. So by nature, we are very eco-friendly. The technology is cost effective, depending on the competitor. In case of RFID tags, which are really expensive, we can bring up to 70-80% savings to the customer. So as our friends in USA, there is a no-brainer for implementing the timber ID technology on the cost-effective side.
As you mentioned at the beginning, this industry wasn't really tech savvy, etc. So what were the challenges or maybe obstacles that you have encountered while implementing your solutions, and how have you overcome them with customers, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, it's always very important in new technology to bring to the market the first, user. Yeah, so our first implementations are opening the doors for the next ones to see that it's working, it's working. We are at the phase now where we have launched the manual marker, and we're in the development of the automated marker. So some of the customers who have gone through the pilot process say, okay, the technology is good, it's working, but we're needing the automated applicator because of the efficiency, because of the volumes, because of the cost of labor in our country. So we are now working heavily to bring to the market till the end of this year the automated applicator in order to secure the needs of customers, especially within EU.
Okay, and you mentioned some regulations at the very beginning, and you mentioned that was just a coincidence, of course, but it happened. So the EU regulations are happening. So what are the development plans for the company in the context of the new EU regulations on, just to be clear, forest protection?
European Union deforestation regulation has been passed by the European Parliament last year in September. The regulation has been finalized by December last year and published last week with the deadlines. So the deadline of the implementation, to make long story short, is 30th of December 2024. So the countries have 18 months to adopt to the regulatory. And the regulatory is very straightforward. Yeah, you need to prove the source of your timber. And you need to prove it with a geolocalization of the harvested plot, and you need to prove it with a timestamp. It means exact timing when that happened. That's exactly is the data which we're using in our code. So what can we say? We are really at the beginning of a path where a lot of companies will need to adopt, and not only the companies within EU, but multiple the countries who are exporters to EU, because no one in EU will buy a timber in 2025 which will be not proven the provenance source. So we have a lot of inquiries, we have a lot of discussions. Africa is a great example, South America, Asia. They're really leading the countries on the export of timbers, where they are facing now a situation that they need to do something about it. So yeah, nice, challenging times. We believe that there will be other technologies which will enter the market. It will be not only our technology, but that's really fascinating and a great place. To be and face the challenges which we have today.
Yeah, and so with the challenges, as I understand this correctly, for sustainable forest management in the world, because probably that's the end goal. And I know Deeplai AI is contributing to overcome them, but except for the challenge you mentioned, so illegal logging and timber trade, right? Because that's that. Are there any other challenges for the whole industry from the forest management perspective?
Yes, it is the digitalization of data. Yeah?
Mhm.
Because even today, the certification of timber is being provided by large organizations as FSC or PEFC. These are the two leading organizations. Still, the process is an old-fashioned, process of personal audit, of paperwork, and we all know that there are a lot of gray areas in that process. So that is the reason why we need to prove really only 70% of the total volume of the timber that we can get this certification. In other words, it's today accepted that 30% of the timber which is being entering the market is not having any certification. Number two, the certification process is not obligatory. It's volunteered by companies to do it, to be the leading companies, I would say, in the green environment, which is great. But the EU deforestation regulatory is really bringing a regulatory requirement. So now you need to comply. And number two, what is really important is to mention here that there are very strict are penalties for not complying. So there are two levels of penalties. It's either up to 8 million euros for a case which was proven being unauthorized, or up to 4% of your turnover, annual turnover. So very heavy level of penalty to force the market to adopt with the technologies and to bring the compliance with the regulatory.
And your technologies are integrated, right? You integrate with the global forestry certifications and the audit systems.
We are giving the capability for the players to get the data and integrate. So the Timber ID SaaS platform in the AWS is with the open API. It has own client interface, so can be used by the customer for his private usage, and can be open for any integrations with certifications or any auditors, or even at the government level with let's say sharing information about the volumes of harvested timber in the country.
Yeah, right. And with that being said, because you have some experience in the market already, and how has the product fingerprint technology affected the wood industry? Do you see any changes in a sense, or at least with your clients and the whole process of creating the product fingerprint technology? Did it bring anything new to the industry, in your opinion, of course?
Yeah, my experience is that the industry is really slow and takes time to get right people on board. But now with the EU regulatory, the things will speed up. We already see it being approached by large customers, trying to understand more about timber AI ID and what we're doing with the AI timber fingerprint and what we're doing with the coding, how easy or how difficult it will be to adopt, etc., etc. Yeah, so it's a really very interesting, time we're facing
Yes.
today.
So kind of, the industry was kind of forced to understand technology. That would be.
Yes, yes. The industry is being, I would say, motivated to speed up in the digitalization part.
Right. Yeah, of course. And you mentioned AI, and that's a good subject. Do you have any other examples on how artificial intelligence can help with the fight against illegal logging and timber trade? I know it can help with multiple things except for that, but like in this case, do you have any cool examples?
Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, at Deeplai, the team has a lot of experience in image processing, in computer vision, AI, ML models, and timber itself. Regardless, we know we have hundreds of species worldwide. Yeah, timber ring is a very nice source of creating the AI ML models, where we can really find unique patterns. When we look at the timber ring in multiple species, we can compare it to a human fingerprint, right? So for humans, to say timber fingerprint, oh yeah, now we understand what the technology, what the process is
Yeah.
about. Yeah? So it's important also to say that there are a lot of specifics in the industry which we have learned. Globally, it's very important to understand to whom we're talking and where he's based. So is he based in the northern part where he faces ice, snow, mud, or he's based in the southern part where he's facing high temperatures and different species? So it's very important to have this understanding and know that there are various natural implications which are decreasing the value of the timber fingerprinting. So if you take an image of the timber log, once it is logged, and then you pull it in a heap of mud, and you want to take an image for a verification, for a computer vision eye, these are two different products, because you don't see the face anymore. You see just the mud. Yeah. So and here the combination of the decode and the indented code, even partially it is covered with the mud or snow or ice, we still can read it. And if it's partially it is the timber log is covered, we also have some areas which are uncovered, and there we can also find the unique patterns in the computer vision. So that is the really strength of the technology, which is using two different technologies in one combination.
Yeah, combined. And
Exactly.
so you mentioned some of it, but what are the chances then of exceeding your technology to other forms of environmental protection?
We, as I said at the beginning, we have been designing the technology for natural products. Yeah? So we did some research on other products than timber logs. Yeah, so we did it on natural skin, leather. We did it on fruits. So we can say yes, there are areas where we can use the technology uh, outside of timber in industry. But that's not what we are willing to do at the moment, where we fully are focusing on the industry. So
That always interested me in a sense. Of course, you can measure success in multiple ways, KPIs, revenue, like you can measure it. But how do you measure the impact and success of the deep tech solutions in terms of climate and environmental protection?
I would say the the assessment can be done in a longer term. Yeah,
Mhm.
in the shorter term, we need to recognize that we are really changing the technology. Yeah, it is, I can say, revolution. Yeah, so we're basically replacing all the existing technology with all the plastic tagging, metal tagging, RFID tagging, ink marking with the indented variable, the code. By saying that, just in nature by itself, it brings a lot of challenges, and it is uncomparable to a simple introduction of a new technology where you measure KPIs versus your competitors. Yeah, because you're bringing a situation to the market where slowly the competitors are understanding that their future is not long term anymore.
So, how do you envision the future of deep tech solutions in the context of climate, environment, in general, and generally protection, obviously? How do you envision that?
I'm a strong believer of digitalization and data. I don't want to speak about blockchains because I think it's a nice vision, but still a long way to go. But ultimately, it's about big data. So everything linked with the climate protection, whatever we want to do with our environment, is based on data. And one of our really aims in the technology we're bringing to the market is the creation of big data of harvested, timber. Once you have the data, we can really think how to use them, how to assess the carbon footprint in a country, in an area. You can really easily can track where the timber has finally ended, at a sawmill, uh, or at other usage as pellet production, or simply like firewood. Yeah, you will know that the verification has not been done at a sawmill. You will exactly know that the sawmill will really deliver the value, because everything reaching the sawmill will remain as a wooden product in the future, because it will be, transformed, the log into boards, and then the boards into furniture, into toys, and to just think about any other products. Yeah, if the timber is going to as firewood, it's gone. It's not scanned at the sawmill, so you know exactly how much went as a firewood. If you go for a pellet, you will know also what is the level and the quantity which is moving for the production of pellets. And when you look at the crown of the log and the rest, you say, okay, that went to the paper mills. Yeah, so that's basically gone. Yeah, what is really interesting and what the implications will be in the future, I think not many of us understand, because we're looking at the digital transformation. So we see more news coming online, so less newspapers. Yeah, So less paper, yeah, less magazines, so everything online. Okay, less, sure, but the price of paper within the Green Deal within EU will increase in the next 5 to 10 years, couple of times. So that will be the reason why there'll be basically no newspapers, I believe, in 5 years in Europe, yeah? Because the price of the paper was so expensive. There will be no rational behind just printing a newspaper or a magazine. Yeah?
But because there will be less wood, that's the...
Because there will be less wood, and because the big data will give you the right information of the usage. So, if the thoughts around the Green Deal are, let's support the timber, which will remain as a timber product in the future in our environment, which is helping all of us as humans, yeah, and less support the part of the timber which is really going, for waste in general, yeah. So if you will need to buy some carbon credits in order to sustain your production, your prices will increase, and basically that's the only way how the economy is working. So price is increasing, demand is going down, and that's basically it. Yeah? So in the perspective, as we see the goals which are in the EU, so 2035, 2050, yeah, these are the dates which are mentioned. I think these are those days where we'll see a lot of changes.
How can then the tech companies like yours, like mine, can support, the pro-ecological attitudes and the fight for climate balance, but on daily basis? What's your opinion on that?
I think it's our, I would say, social responsibility that we're developing technologies which are helping the society to make the move, and we're doing it by inventions in a direction to really help and protect the environment. Yeah? I think that's our personal, the decision what and how we want to do, and I'm convinced that as owners of companies, as decision makers, we should not only look at the profits we'll generate like tomorrow, but we should also look at the climate. So are our kids and grandkids will have the privilege to spend all our earnings, today, in a good environment in the future, or not? Really. And as I personally, see it, and I can confirm it, what's happening in the timber industry, without the push of a strict regulatory, the industries are unwilling to move fast enough, and we need to move fast now. We can't, talk what is nice to have. We need to execute today in order to have it, and that's my personal view. What we need to do, and if all of us are understanding this, then we're all working, together to just live in a better society and in a good climate in the next years.
Okay, and what's your take on which areas of the fight against the climate change should we founders address, like, in the first place?
In the first place, we should talk loud, especially to the large guys who are talking much, doing much less than they can, because it's not about just cheating ourselves, yeah, to put it very straightforward, yeah. ESG, very nice, next buzzword, but it's not about being myself a CEO and deciding to buy some carbon credits, and I can say I'm a green company. No, No, you're not. Yeah, you'll be a green company if, as an example, if an industry as mobile producers will decide, let's bring to the market smartphones which need to stay and be used at least for 5 years. Why do we replace every second year a smartphone? Why we're pushed, to just fight and always are willing to have the latest version, to be snobbish and show to the others, oh, yeah, I can afford this, I can afford that. Yeah, the technology really can easily be used for multiple years, easily. But some companies are using, different softwares in order to push us to replace the hardwares. Yeah. So, I mean, that's for me one of the examples where what also regulatory should be used, and should say, look, guys, it's not all about Excel. It's not about making good numbers, good profits, as you mentioned. Good KPIs. Yeah, it's also about the responsibility we're having of our future, and it all depends on us. Yeah, so we should talk loud. We should sometimes even scream, guys, that's the wrong way you're doing it. Yeah, listen to startups, listen to digital companies, listen to the small ones, because they have no boundaries to move on.
And I want to come back to to your plans and the future, because we're discussing the future in general. But what is your technology future, especially in the context of extending the product fingerprint technology to other products? What would be your take on that?
I mean, the IT part and the software part of the technology is more or less obvious, because every quarter the computer vision are bringing new and new, levels. So you need to move on with the trends, with new levels of technology which are brought to the market. Yeah. So in the software part on the AWS platform, and the mobile app is, I would say, constant development. And here we are clear. The challenge we're having is on the hardware part. Yeah. So we have a manual hammer mark. We are engineering and bringing to the market the automated hammer mark. In the future, we need to bring more automation. We need to be integrated with different other technologies which are used in the industry. We're thinking about any autonomous ways how to get the process, I would say, totally human free. So here are the challenges where we're having. We like them a lot because it brings us a lot of satisfaction when we work on that, and are bringing to the market inventions in how really we could automate the processes. So that's, I would say, the key for the industry: how to automate the code marking of the timber in order to have it in a most efficient way, and let's say try to bring down all the arguments of why not doing that in the industry.
At the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about the tech savviness of the industry, but we didn't really cover the competitors. So I mean, my first question would be like, what sets your company apart from other players on the market, if there are any? Because it's possible that there are just no competitors, and that's a very niche market. And also, I wanted to know what sets your company apart from the perspective when it comes to like different or like let's say delivering the solutions, so like customer success or something that maybe your competitors don't have.
They are on the market already for many years. and there are really not much improvements in the processes and the technologies which are already at the market. I mean, used. Yeah, so by inventing really a totally new process, you're bringing the next step in the industry, where there is, sadly to say, for the competitors, there is no future. There is no future because the future will be for anyone who will come with an idea how to code mark a timber log without using any consumables. We found our path. Probably there are many other paths how you can achieve this result, and I'm sure there are multiple individuals who are and companies are working on that. Just understanding that the regulatory changes in the EU are totally opening a new level in the market opportunity. So once the market opportunity is there, obviously the players will come with with the technology. So I don't believe we're the only one who have invented, but obviously we're are curious what the other guys will bring to the market.
I know you're very mission driven. The company, of course, I mean, resolve it goes around environmental protection, climate, and also wood industry, which is very interesting in general. But is that mission helps you with finding employees and people and good talent and great talent? Does it help, or that's like an advantage on the market?
Yeah, that's interesting question. Uh, I didn't think about that this way. I think we're attracting individuals to join the team with the technology itself. My last interview I had this week was, wow, what a great idea. Yeah, I would really like to be a part of this team. Yeah, so I would say more technology is attracting individuals than the climate uh, implications or the environmental protection part.
And does it also involve hiring people that know the industry well, so from the wood industry in general, or not really, and you're trying to disrupt the market with and they're not people from the, let's say, old or like kind of like wood companies in general?
At Deeplay, we do not have a single employee who has any education in the wood industry.
Okay.
So all what we had to know, we learned, and we're using external, I mean, consultants to help us to understand more details. But there is no employee with the education in the timber industry, and I believe that is the factor why we could reach the level where we are now, because in our mindset there are no boundaries why something will not work.
I thought it's very also, the industry driven, like sales or contacts or something. But no, I get it. But we're talking about the impact and how impactful a company can be. And if we can revert back to what is the impact of technology in general on the fight against illegal, industrial practices and environmental protection.
Let me put it a little bit from the different angle at the beginning. We were uh, proud to be listed last year by PricewaterhouseCoopers on an annual report focusing on climate tech startups in Central Eastern Europe. So we were on the list of 50 startups, and out of those were 14 from Poland. Uh, so that's great. At the same time, the report has stated a very sad fact: the level of investments into the climate tech startups in Central Eastern Europe is at the level of 1% of total investments. So the main struggle really for an impact company is to find the right investors who would really look at the technology from a human perspective, from an environmental perspective, climate perspective, and at the end look at the Excel file. So I think that is the biggest, challenge for us and for many startups who are looking and having a mission to be an impact technology provider.
But would you say it's easier to get funding in Europe or in the US because of the? I mean, is that the case that Europe is more climate sensitive in a sense, and the startups around here are just more easily funded, or completely that's not completely not true?
I would not look at that from this angle. Investors, especially VCs or corporate investors, are focused first on the tax benefits which they can achieve. So if you are not registered as a company in US as a LLC, for example, even don't go there and don't ask for money because you will not get it. Very rarely American investors like to invest outside of their country. First of all, not understanding the legal boundaries, and secondly, not having any tax benefits. So basically, you can forget about North America if you're not there. It's Europe, and mostly it is Western Europe, and I can say that it's great to know that one of the leading countries in Europe with a focus on the climate tech, to put it in a general terms, is UK.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And why is that right now?
Multiple, reasons. So first of all, UK introduced the ESG regulatory in UK more than a year ago, so 6 months ahead of EU. So there is really great focus. Secondly, you can get a tax benefit as a UK investor if you invest into climate tech companies. So very similar to the US approach for investors to get any tax benefits for investing into startups, which I didn't find in any other countries. Maybe I do not know all details. Maybe about France. Maybe in France there is something I do not know. But what I learned, the most favorable is UK.
Okay, and when it comes to, and probably I know it's a tougher market for startups and for founders. I mean, climate tech in general, but because probably they're just not only the investors, but accelerators, incubators, knowledge. It's just in general, it's not that broad as in other, let's say, sectors for tech.
Yeah, that's correct. That's why we didn't participate in an accelerator. We basically were working with consultants from the industry. So from the academic part, from the real environment of productions, and got a lot of support and good knowledge from them. And the rest we invented by ourselves. So we have three patents in process now, already at the final stage. So yeah, that gives us a good background to move on in the future.
That was actually my follow-up question, because if I am, let's say, if there are any young founders listening that are from the climate tech or just want to build something in the climate tech, so essentially when it comes to like knowledge transfer, your advice will be to go to advisors, consultants, do it yourself basically, because there are not many knowledge platforms or some, let's say, knowledge sharing platforms or any kind of assistance in this regard. So it's easier to do it yourself, or just find your ways yourself from this angle, so advisory consulting?
Yes, if your mission, as our mission was to bring revolutionary technology to the industry and change the world, to put it this way. If you are bringing a technology which is just improving a process, existing process, then it's obviously much easier, and we can use a lot of ways how to get supported. But if you really want to reinvent the wheel, you will face a lot of pushbacks and hard times. But if you're strong enough, you will get to the point where you can move on.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned patents. Your technology is patent protected. Are there any other, what's the ways or measures to protect the technology worldwide, not only in Europe, or you don't believe in
My advice for the founders are to first submit the patent application in the local country, because that's the cheapest. Yeah. And then you have a 12-month protection, and hopefully you will get on board already the right investors, and then you need to reapply in the rest of the world where you believe you need the protection. One more advice, which I'm personally as well taking care of, avoiding any relationships with Chinese companies. Just if you are not aware, they just like to know what you're doing. That's it.
Sure. So okay. Thank you for that. And maybe as a last one, just because we kind of ask everyone this, what would be like 3 pieces of advice for startup founders, especially when they're starting, that you would give?
First of all, I believe the strength is in diversity. So you should be a team of startups, at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it yourself. It is, I would say, almost impossible to achieve something by just one individual. You need to combine your expertise, your knowledge, and you need to have someone whom you can trust and work together and create something together. So that's the first advice. Second advice, you need to secure in some way the funding at the beginning of your path, at least to achieve your level 1. Yeah. Don't think that somebody will give you something just for sharing a great idea. There are thousands of startups, there are thousands of programs, of platforms where they invite you and you believe you can achieve something. It's just, I call it, this is nice to be, but at the end of the day, you need simply to be at the right place at the right moment and have good luck. So have that in mind. And third, which I would say I think is the most important, never give up. Yeah, if you believe in something, you fail, stand up, and move on. Fail, stand up, and move on. Then you can achieve it. Yeah. Otherwise, if you fail and you don't want to stand up, don't do it.
Nice. That's actually a perfect ending. I love that. Swapan, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing all the knowledge and advices. And hope to hear from you soon as well, in maybe volume 2 of the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy that I could share some of my experience.
Stay in touch with us, subscribe to our podcast, give us a like, comment, or share. If you want to reach out personally, you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram.